Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Yang, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrate to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to our channel and turn on the little bell on the side so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one getting all the insights. Now, it's a season of graduation. We are approaching middle of the year, and obviously there's a lot of university student. If you're at or master student or PhD students, if you are getting your examination done recently, obviously graduation is coming up. So what is next? The next obviously will be your post-study work visa subclass 485. So today in this video I would like to take you a little bit of glimpse and brief about what 485 visa is. Obviously a lot of international students, if you're a graduate, you know what it is and what is to watch out for and what you need to do, and there are different type of 485 visas. I'll go through with it, and obviously because of the international travel restrictions, if you graduated offshore, not in Australia, do you have the right to actually apply for 485 visa? I'll have the answer at the end. So let's jump into the actual immigration web page. Obviously you see here subclass 485 temporary graduate visa here. Now if you scroll down, obviously there are three different types. I'm gonna go, okay, like that you'll see that the full screen here. So there are three type of streams or pathways, should I say, for the subclass 485 visa. The reason why it is because if we look into the history, the very first invention of 485 was the graduate work stream. There wasn't a graduate work stream of such because there's only one stream going on. So in order to have these so-called the old scheme continue to go on, the immigration of Australia has put a title of graduate work stream there. So it's basically nowadays, if you are studying and completing courses that is of diploma or below. So for example, cookery course, carpentry course, the childcare services course, the courses that not even getting to bachelor degree, you will be ranking yourself into the graduate stream. So I'm gonna go into the detail later on, one by one. And if you are somehow studying in the bachelor degree, master degree, and above for PhD, obviously then you will be hitting yourself into the post-study work stream. Now the differences here is the graduate stream only provide you 18 months of work rights. Now the post-study work will provide you at least 24 months of work right. Plus there is an extension for the, as you can see on the right on top of me, the second post-study work stream there if you study your courses and complete it in regional Australia. That's for example Adelaide, Gold Coast, Perth, and you continue to live and work in those places, then you'll be able to actually apply for a second post-study work. So that's the benefit of it. But people ask whether the graduate stream will have that too. No, the graduate stream is somehow the least advantage. I should say it's the disadvantages of the three compare here, and that's why in our video we have well, if you're really passionate about patisserie, passionate about cookery and things like that, obviously you go for the diplomas courses. But the disadvantage of that is you only get 18 months of work right, and that's all you get. There's nothing else that you can actually extend with it. So, and plus 485 visa can only do once in your lifetime. So you got to choose very carefully. You got to choose very carefully. So getting into a bachelor degree or above is actually more advantageous. Okay, now let's go into the first category of graduate work visa. Now the graduate stream, Now, bear in mind, all these is the web page is actually on the immigration website. You can find them yourself too. So as you can see here, usually up to 18 months. But if you're a Hong Kong passport holder, there's additional advantage if you're coming from Hong Kong. Obviously, due to the issues happened in last year, you will get 5 years. Whichever the stream that you are in, and that's the beauty of it. Now, the graduate stream has an issue here, although it can be under 50. But the two. Oh, before we go that, let's go back a little bit. Now, all of the graduate stream and post-study work stream required to meet the Australian study requirement. That's 2 years of work, studying, full-time studying. Now, the definition of the Australian study requirement, I've done a video on that one, but to be easier, 2 years of study. Each semester has to be 4 months long, and also acquire at least 3+ subjects in each semester that you're required to meet the study requirements. So let's go back here. So if you can see here, you see that you need to meet the Australian study requirement. There's detail there. Now I'm not going to go into detail here. More generally, if you have studied in Australia and graduated, you probably will meet this. The only people that will not meet this will be those people that had chosen master degrees and at the beginning, because they have no knowledge about 45 visas. And obviously, if you want to complete a master degree, do you want to pick a 3-year course or 2-year course, or perhaps a 1.5 year course? You know, to be sensible, any reasonable person will pick 1.5 year, because you want to complete as soon as possible so you get back to the career. But then you lose that Australian study requirement mark in order to actually lodge for 45 visa. So that's a completely different story there. Now, the requirement here for graduate work is that your occupation has to be within the MLT SSL. So if you study something that is not in the occupation list, not in the medium long-term strategic skills list, then unfortunately you cannot even apply for it. So that's the disadvantage there as well. So that's a problem. There are some examples here. You might want to take some time to have a read, but obviously your question, query, more than welcome to leave comment right down below. Okay. Now you may need to, or all of the 45 visa applicants required to meet the English requirement, which is an IELTS overall 6 with a minimum of 5, not below 5 for each band. Okay, so that's pretty reasonable. But if you're a passport holder of UK, USA, Canada, or New Zealand, or Ireland, you don't need to prove that no more. But saying that, you still need to do it, because if you want to migrate into getting into the skill select system, the EOI with the points, you still need to do the English test. Okay, then the rest is pretty simple. Every visa required to do a health checks and the character check there. Now let's jump into the next one. Is the post-study work right? Okay, now post-study work stream. Now, obviously, we can say here, you can see the differences here. The major differences here is that it will provide you between 2 to 4. Now, the reason they say 2 to 4 is the first 45 PSW visa, obviously, once you graduate, you get 2 years. Now, if you continue to stay in regional Australia, you can extend a second one. Now, the second one can be 1 year or 2 years. There's only very regional areas that has eligibility allowing you to actually extend for a further 2 years. One is in Lismore. Lismore is just southern part of Gold Coast, but it's actually within New South Wales. It's at the border. It's very not rural, but it's on the coast side. It's beautiful, but obviously counting on the population there, it's very unpopulated in compared to major cities. And obviously, if you go northern Queensland, Cairns, and Northern Territory, Darwin, I'll say Tasmania as well. And I think that's it, because Perth and Adelaide is not counted within that category of giving you an extended further 2 years of 485 visa. And rest of the regional area, I'm talking about Gold Coast, Adelaide, Perth, and the southern part of Melbourne, Geelong. And that will get you a further 12 months of 3 years. So that's the reason that's why it says it's between 2 to 4 years. Okay, now the eligibility, let's take a look at there. Now the age requirements under 50, same here. You're required to meet study requirement. So that's the same with the graduate work visa. Now the differences here, as I have explained, you are required to achieve at least bachelor or above. Now, if you have studied master by research or doctoral degrees, there's a difference there because 485 visa does provide you a more extensive work right there. So that's another different one. But if you do have achieved something like that, more welcome. Leave a comment right down below. I'll give you a more detailed there. So as you can see, there's no skill assessment required for the post-study work right. So there's no, because it's not diploma. But if we come back to the previous graduate work visa here, if you go into the skill qualification things, you're required to be in the occupation list, the strategic skills list, and obviously you need to go through skill assessments because you need to show that you're in the list. But for the post-study work, PSW, because there's no, you don't need to be in any of the skill list. Okay, so obviously there's no skill assessment required. But by saying that, once you get your 485 visa, if you wanted to, proceed towards, for example, 491, 189, 190, obviously you still need to go skill assessment. So that's a separate stuff there. Now, English requirement, it's the same. Overall 6, minimum 5 each band. If you hold UK, USA, Canada, New Zealand, Ireland passport, no need to prove that. But still, if you want to go into the skill select, you still need to do your IELTS test in order to get those points. So that's it. That's for the 485 visa PSW. Now, if you are eligible to do a second post-study work right, here we go. So there's usually between 1 or 2 years. That's what I have. It just explained it, and you need to see which regional area that you're in. So that detail, I've done a video on that one, so I'm not gonna go into detail here. Now the next thing I wanted to chat to you about obviously is from last year, due to pandemic, there's a lot of there is still international travel restrictions, so a lot of people actually study online, achieved online, graduated online, and you're offshore, you're not in Australia. So what do you do? Or perhaps you have graduated and left the country and cannot even return back to Australia. So what can you do here? Now, here is some information which you can also find on the immigration website. So there's a COVID-19 visa concession here. So obviously it mentions the 485 visa, as I have pointed out right here. Okay. And in the detail here, if you're a student who have achieved offshore, I'm just getting to the detail right here. You can see that for 485 visa, online study undertaken outside Australia because of COVID travel restriction count towards Australian study requirements. So that's a good thing. And then the graduate affected COVID travel restriction can apply the temporary graduate visa. That's 485. Outside Australia as well. So make sure that if you are those kind of person affected by the travel restriction, you can still apply. But there is further additional detail documentation required. For example, you need to show that you have COE, you have your student visa granted for the right to actually study onshore, and those things are required to supply for your visa application. So let's wrap it up. Now, it's June. It's the almost last few weeks of the June. A lot of people might already have done the examination, final examination, or pending to actually get the result. So once you graduate, make sure, a lot of people, if you're unsure, your visa might expire on 30th of August. Make sure you get all that done so you can lodge your 485 visa validly. And obviously you can stay in Australia safely and continue on your further career. Anyway, should you have more question and query, more than welcome to write to us or comment right down below. And I see you next video. Goodbye.